it's Danny Bird here. Today's host of the Growing the Future podcast. We're back with season 4, episode 8. You can sign up for our newsletter at growingthefuturepodcast.ca to get emails about all of our new episodes and find out all about our old episodes there. Make sure to follow us on social. That'll keep you up to date, and you can watch the videos of our conversations on YouTube. That's pretty cool too. You can also find the Eberhard family of companies online. You can find out about our farm at eberhardfarms.com, and you can learn about suregrowth.ca, the agronomy consulting services that they offer there, and convergencegrowth.com. They accelerate solutions across food, health, and agriculture, doing a lot of good in the world. And last but not least, of course, eberhardagsolutions.ca, where we deliver one-of-a-kind fertility solutions of the future to your farm. My next guest is known as Forbes' top farmer to follow, and she has made a name for herself as a dedicated myth buster in the food industry who has influenced corporations as powerful as Burger King. She's passionate about agriculture. She's trying to bridge the gap between consumers and producers. She's been on stage doing so amongst leading industry experts all of the time as one of the most well-known voices in agriculture. She's working hard to bring the real story of agriculture to the forefront of the headlines, as seen in Business Insider, Vice, Forbes, and many more. You can find her on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Today, we're going to talk about her story and how she advocates for agriculture, how that all got started. How does she do it? The steps and the tactics she used for bridging that consumer to producer gap that we know is a big issue. And what are some of the myths that she's actually busting, and how has she influenced these corporations? Because I think there's a lot of skepticism around this in the industry. Welcome to the show, the one and only Michelle Miller, Farm Babe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Dan. It's great to be here.
Oh, great. Well, we're gonna have a great conversation today, and we're gonna unpack how you do what you do, and you're doing a lot of good for agriculture in the bigger picture. How is it that you got to be an advocate for agriculture, Michelle?
Well, I basically went from one extreme to the other. I went from being a big city girl to only shopping at Whole Foods and buying organic and being against all these. I basically bought into every food labeling myth under the sun, and lived in LA and Chicago through my 20s. And then I was at a bar in Florida. I met a farmer. He picked me up and it worked, and I moved to Iowa.
Nice.
So yeah, he's a 6th generation farmer from Iowa, and I ended up moving there for him. We dated for almost 8 years. And so back in 2014, I started the Farm Babe, and things didn't work out with the Iowa farmer. I actually live down in Florida now. So now I live on a 17-acre farm in North Central Florida. But when I was up there was really kind of when I started it all, was coming from the city. And then, he was growing Monsanto GMOs and was spraying Roundup and had cattle feedlots and used hormones and antibiotics and basically all these things that I had heard and I thought were terrible. And those were things I avoided in the grocery store. And then you start to dig in on what those labels actually mean. And you meet and you realize that a bunch of information out there is not true. And so that's where my passion stemmed from, was realizing that farmers are misunderstood and they're not as well appreciated as they should be. And I just wanted to be a champion for them and for science, and give science and farmers a bigger voice overall in the food space.
I'm listening to your story, and I'm wondering what it takes for a human being on planet Earth to admit that they're wrong, because it seems like it's something we're not very capable of these days. Was there a single moment, or was it a gradual dawning?
I think it was I think the aha moment was when I was looking at his fields and I saw, he's growing corn in Iowa. I know, shocker. corn and soybeans. Yeah. Corn, soybeans, cattle, and sheep was, and hay and oats and stuff was what he was growing. And yeah, I was just looking around at the cornfield one day when we had just started dating, and I had just asked if his corn was GMO, and he looked at me like I had 3 heads, and he's like, yeah, of course. I'm like, oh, Monsanto. And he's like, yeah. And he just looked at me like I was crazy, like, of course. And I'm just like, well, I think that was like the moment when he was like, yeah, Monsanto is not a bad company. Like, GMOs do great things for farmers. Like, what are you even talking about? And so that's really kind of when and then I started asking around, like his friends and his neighbors and other farmers. And then I started just doing a social media page, because I was like, is he crazy? And everybody's just like, yeah, of course we grow GMOs. Like 95% of farmers do. And it's a good thing. And so that was really kind of what sparked the start.
So you made a web page. Like I'm also wondering how you went from like having some understanding to realizing it could be you sharing the truth.
Yeah, and it was interesting because so what had happened, so the name Farm Babe was actually a spinoff of this food blogger called the Food Babe. Are you
Oh, okay.
familiar?
No, I'm
Yeah,
not, but I can only imagine.
oh, she's so full of crap. I
So
mean,
you're
she's
the
just
rebuttal to the food babe.
yes. So the Food Babe was spreading tons of misinformation, and she's this blogger. And she was like, oh, GMOs are just drenched in toxic poison, and you need to buy organic. And I responded on her Facebook page on her post, and I said, look, like I'm on a GMO crop farm. Our food's very safe. Like, I'd love to talk to you about it. Come on out to the farm. And rather than engage with me, she blocked and banned me from her Facebook page within about 5 seconds of posting. And so it was
Canceled.
through that I then found a Facebook group called Banned by the Food Babe, which has 10,000 members.
What?
Yes, I shit you not. So 10,000 members.
Yeah.
And I realized that the Food Babe was just silencing all these people. Like nobody got a voice. And so I just decided to start the Farm Babe. And it was a combination of realizing that I had been lied to, realizing that people, were just always being lied to when it comes to food labels and the food supply and animal welfare and GMOs and all that stuff. Combination of between being shut down, the Farm Babe was born. And when I started the Farm Babe, I really didn't think much of it. Like I was just like, well, I'm just going to tell my own story about why we're growing GMOs and what and how. And I never thought it would turn into a full-time career, but here we are.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So this is a full-time career for you. Why have you been able to go online and make a living? Like maybe it's hard to like become truthful about this, but because you got to really reflect here. But why are you so popular?
Well, I think that's part of it is that I do resonate so well with urban audiences. 90% of my dearest friends are still in big cities. So, I mean, I was just in Miami last weekend. I'm going to Chicago this weekend. Like I spend a lot of time in urban areas. And so it's like my friends and community is, they trust me. They like me. It's believable. It's relatable. And, I think sometimes for farmers, it's easy to get defensive. But since I understand so well the other side of it, it's been easy for me to build kind of that more of a non-farm audience where I can say, oh my God, I totally understand. I think that's one of the biggest communication points that we've got to do a better job of overall in our industry is really listening to people and understanding and having empathy that they're not stupid or a lost cause. They just have never had the chance to talk to a farmer before. They don't know what a combine is. And it's not that they're stupid, they just haven't had the opportunity to be exposed to rural America. So it's just been a matter of like when I tell stories, I tell it in a way that everybody can understand. I think sometimes farmers, you have to remember these things that people don't know what a combine is. So when you're talking about, all the terminology we use every day on the farm, nobody's ever heard of that. So you've got to dumb it down. And so I think it was easy for me to kind of come from the other extreme where it's like, yeah, okay, like let's post a picture of what this field actually looks like. Like, let's talk about the terminology. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think that you can talk down to people to get your message across. I don't think that you can use fancy terminology. You have to be very simple, and you also have
Yeah.
to be willing to listen. Just like this other person wasn't willing to listen to you. That's the difference, right?
Yeah. And it's just remembering that people have the attention span of a butterfly. So it's like, you've got to get to the point and make it fun and interesting. And so like with my content, I always try to vary it. Some of it is just a goofy meme. Some of it's an infographic. It's an article. It's a personal story. It's a selfie. It's a picture. It's a post. It's a story. So by varying that content, you're not just going down the rabbit hole of one media. You're going down a variety of all the different colors of different things and hobbies and crossing outside of ag, where you're really reaching outside of that audience and building it based on like trust and information and engage with your followers is really important too.
How did you get to be an expert on doing that?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert, right? It's
well,
just
you're successful. How did you become
yeah.
successful?
Well, when I first started, all I was doing, well, not all I was doing, but part of what I was doing was sharing content from people that I looked up to and that I was learning a lot from. So I will tell you, one of my biggest influences is actually a Canadian, Robert Syke. So Rob Syke
nice.
had done this. Yeah. So I love Rob Syke, and he
Yeah.
was actually the very first person that ever hired me to do public speaking. And what it inspired me about Rob was that I had watched his TED Talk. And so when I watched his TED Talk and I just became fascinated with Rob, I was reading all about him and understanding and learning and reaching out. And then the company he was with, this was a long time ago. This was before he even had Trimble and AgVisor Pro. It was the Farm Forum event in Saskatoon. And he was like, do you want to come speak at my conference? Like, thank you so much for sharing my TED Talk, for sharing information about my company and about who we are and what we do. And I was like fangirling, right? Because here I am with Rob Syke and Kevin Folta, and Kevin Folta has now become one of my best friends. Right. And so it's just building these relationships of like, they were just always there for me. When I was new to agriculture and learning, I could like send an email to Kevin Folta or a message to Rob Syke, and they were always right there to help me learn and understand. And so when I was speaking there in Saskatoon, I just wanted to learn. I'm just like a sponge. And so that was the first time I ever spoke, was in 2015. But I realized that I kind of just had this knack for taking what scientists know and do, or agronomists, or whoever that is, you call them agrologists in Canada, but taking that information and making it digestible. So kind of taking the big city girl background of like understanding the disconnect and combining it with the amazing experts in the science. And that's really kind of where I found my niche, was like myth busting. And yeah. And then when I spoke at the conference, the room was packed. There was like not a single empty seat. And I just got so many compliments after, and people were just like, you're a really great speaker. Will you come speak at our event? Will you speak at our event? And from there, it's just blown up. And now I just did 10 keynotes last month. I mean, it's been awesome. So
congrats.
Yeah, it's
Must
just,
be nice
thank
after
you.
COVID. How did you do during COVID?
Awful. I was in a very dark place, just no, but
weren't
no,
we
but
all
seriously
for 2 years?
Well,
Well, that's where they told you to go to your dark place, stay there.
Yeah, it was scary. It was depressing. I mean, I had 65 events cancel across 4 continents.
Oh,
and it was like, because I do international stuff too, and so it's been great. But oh man, it was so scary. It was so, as so many of us went through it, right?
It's all over now.
Yeah.
Or was it ever?
Yeah. I don't know.
Did it ever?
Like, is it really? Yeah. I don't need any more variants, because I don't want to remember how to memorize the Greek alphabet. Like,
exactly.
Like alpha,
wave
Omicron,
6, it can't be that bad.
Beta, zeta, upsilon, alpha, z, delta. That was my sorority, so I just shout out to the Greek alphabet.
Yeah. They had to skip over a few of them because they were going to cause like mass panic. Like, no, that's too much. Let's go right to Omicron.
No, that Delta Chi is where you really get, then you get COVID, and then you also smell like a basement frat house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're doing cake stands.
Yeah.
While you're on a ventilator, it doesn't really go together. But
no, not a good idea.
I was wondering, when you mentioned Kevin's name, I don't know all what happened there, but have you faced persecution publicly as well for your beliefs?
No, not really. And I think
Kevin
that's
did,
another beauty.
right?
Yeah, Kevin, oh, poor Kevin. He's been through the ringer. And what's hard is that he's a government, state, university employee. And so he's got all these FOIAs, and, you got to, it's all legal. It's all like politics. It's all academia. It just sucks because people like him are silenced, and it's so crazy stupid. Right. But I mean, I understand why it happens to them, but at the same time, it's like, I work for myself. I don't work for anybody. All I am is a girl that loves agriculture and just wants to talk about it and wants to tell the truth about farming. That's it. But I don't have as big of a target on my back because I'm not tied to any corporate, government, academia, anything like that. I'm just a girl that wants to talk about where your food comes from. That's it.
You're doing a great job, but don't you find it's ironic that people are involved in some of these things like academia, where science should be prevalent?
Yes.
Are some of the least open-minded people, and cannot shift their paradigm out of that based on new evidence. You'd think, if you're living and working in that space, your worldview could be disrupted at any time given new evidence.
Yeah, exactly. But I think a lot of that too boils down to trust, because it's like, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And maybe it's because like when I was in my 20s too, and I lived in downtown Chicago, I actually had a sales career in most of my 20s. And I learned a lot from that, because when you're in sales, it's about building rapport, building relationships, talking about your company, and then closing, overcoming objections. But when you do all the steps of the sales process, you think about how important it is to have a relationship first, rapport first. Have people like you, trust you, and know you, which from a social media perspective, it's tell your personal story. Like my favorite people to follow on social media are people because I feel like I would be best friends with them in real life. I've seen pictures of their kids and their husbands and their pets and their farms or whoever. And all of a sudden you feel like, oh my God, I love her. Like I could be best friends with her in real life. So you can do the same thing by building this trusted platform. And therefore, it's just like when you close the sale, you do business with people you like. And when it comes time to overcome objections, you say something like, I completely understand. I understand. Like, well, so let me understand this better. It's about listening to help and share rather than I'm right and you're wrong. And this is why you should listen to me. And guess what? If you're going to be that abrasive, nobody's going to buy from you. So I'm making, since I know you're in a lot of ag business, right? With what you guys do, you can take that and compare the same philosophy you have in business and translate that into public trust. And you can take business and sales into like a social media. Here's why one person is trusted more than the other, because you know them and you like them and you build a relationship with them, whether it's online or in person, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. No, and I love what you're doing, and I love what you talked about the sales process there. So how did the human race get so far off track in terms of, hey, they're subsisting on all this technology? It's made it possible for half the population to be alive. I mean, the population boom would have survived if we couldn't feed them.
Yeah.
And yet they're a little bit off track, I think, to be fair, about some of the truths. How did they get there?
Well, I think celebrities have had a huge impact. Okay. So think about, I don't know what it was like in Canada. Did you guys have the Got Milk campaign in the 90s?
We did.
Okay. But remember how influential it was? I mean, at least here down in the US, like milk was the shit in the 90s. Yeah. Like it was like, hell yeah.
I went to the fridge and like made a mustache. It was, I mean,
yeah, it was compelling. That cool. I mean, milk was so cool, but we had, we had every pro athlete, every celebrity, every actress. I mean, shit, we had Kermit the Frog. We had like, you know, I mean, we had the cast of Friends. I mean, anybody that was anybody was talking about how cool milk was. And now when you think at where the celebrities are all preaching veganism. So like Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, Joaquin Phoenix, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ellen DeGeneres. These are 5 of the biggest names in the vegan animal rights community. Kim Kardashian's about to sign on too. Uh-oh. So you think about, I mean, we're screwed unless we have the celebrity voices in our corner. And I don't know why agriculture has transitioned away, but I feel like, in my opinion, or you just think about it overall, we don't have to agree or understand that celebrities are not the experts, right? But at the end of the day, they can do a video overnight and reach hundreds of millions of people, okay? And so we've got to understand that by strengthening the voice and the message and getting our name back out there, it's that the negativity that's coming from the misinformation is coming from the Netflix documentaries, which are narrated by Gisele Bündchen and Tom Brady. You know what I mean? So I know, right? Because they're experts in farming now. But when you hear and see the negativity, it's because of these campaigns that are so well funded with these people are doing the same thing that we did in the 90s with Got Milk and how cool it was. But now instead of celebrities wearing these trendy milk mustaches, now they're all saying, oh, we need to pass Prop 12 in California. We need to go vegan for the planet, because you know, to just see some of these videos that these people have done, like Arnold Schwarzenegger surrounded by flames and global warming because we all have to stop eating beef. I mean, it's influential. People everywhere you go. And I think, again, farmers are disconnected from the disconnect. Go grocery shopping in New York City or Los Angeles sometime. Tell me how that goes. You'll want to pull your hair out. It's a scary place. It's a scary place.
The only celebrity that's doing anything for agriculture right now is Kevin Costner.
Yeah, Kevin Costner helps. Yeah, you know who else has been great is Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay's awesome.
Oh, really? And
Yeah.
in what context is he?
Oh man, he's great.
I've
So
never
there
watched
was
him.
this, oh, well, so there was this vegan animal rights activist called That Vegan Teacher on TikTok and stuff. And she had videos and she was like, I mean, she's just a crazy vegan activist, you know. I got nothing against vegans, but just don't be one of the crazy extremists and spread misinformation, you know. But she was out there and just she wrote a song to Gordon Ramsay, like, you know, basically telling him as a chef, like to go vegan and give up meat and like all this stuff. And so Gordon Ramsay did this video that went so viral. And it was a video where he was listening to her and he was like, oh, and he was eating broccoli and like almost acting like he was like believing her. And then all of a sudden he pushes it aside and he grabs a big burger and he just takes a big old bite of beef. And he's like, vegan donut. He's like, you vegan donut. And it went so viral. And then they got into a tiff, but then a bunch of farmers came together on TikTok and they were doing videos thanking Gordon Ramsay, you know, and then Gordon Ramsay started this viral hashtag that said hashtag every chef needs a farmer. And so it was this really great thing he was doing to raise awareness on farmers and support us and be there. That vegan teacher ended up getting blocked and banned. I don't think she's not even on TikTok anymore. I think she got kicked off permanently because she was saying some really horrible things like comparing agriculture to the Holocaust and like all this. She's just crazy. She's doing really, really horrible things. And to the point where she got blacklisted. And then farmers were just like, Gordon Ramsay, you rock. And everybody was doing videos. And it was just this big like celebration of Gordon Ramsay with farmers. It was great.
I'll have to check
We
that
need a
out.
lot. We need a lot more. We need a lot more of that because then you've got, then, you know, I think about that all the time. Like who else do we have? Carrie Underwood. Nope. She's a vegan. We've got, oh, Luke Bryan. Luke Bryan's doing a good job with the farm tour.
I follow a couple of fellows. Like they're not really famous, but I think they're making a solid case. And they're actually carnivores by trade. Sean Baker, and he's often on TikTok watching these vegans try to make a steak out of something else, like God knows what. He's like, those poor bastards is basically his position. And then Paul Saladino, who's a doctor, has done a lot of. He wrote a book, and he's a carnivore, and he actually makes a really good argument at the end of his book about how regenerative, you know, livestock are. And the irony is really part of livestock is part of the solution.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when 1 billion people may be touched by hunger here shortly, according to Peter Zehan, given global events. Right.
But why think about global hunger when we can think about our first world superior problems of, wow, food's not good enough, right?
Well, it's virtue. To me, it's literally virtue signaling to the order of, you know, climate change comes ahead of our, you know, our food and our heating our homes.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how people can be so removed or, you know, not think about, it's like, yeah, okay, you do this a certain way, but did you ever stop and think about people in other parts of the world that, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a product of too much time on their hands, I think.
Yeah, and just like not getting out and seeing other parts of the world where you can really like appreciate how much we take for granted in our country, you know? I had backpacked through Central America and I was in like the rural jungles of Guatemala and all these crazy places. And then I remember I was down there for like 3 or 4 weeks and through like Belize and whatever. And then I came back to America and it's like you just fly in. I'm like, oh my God, look at this highway interstate system.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's
Civilization.
go get buffalo wings. Yeah, let's watch football and eat buffalo wings and have tacos and drive on an interstate. All the things
you
we
even go
take
from
for
Brandon,
granted.
Manitoba to Phoenix. I'm telling you, like, this is Mecca. This is clean. The roads are nice. There's no potholes. There's no dirty snow. It was really nice to be down there recently.
Yeah.
But how is it? So you obviously know, you understand the science of getting people to know you and like you and trust you so you can transact with them. And in this case, you're transacting on opinion and knowledge and perception and in behalf of agriculture. But how do you get your information, your facts? How do you go about presenting this, gathering the science so you can present it?
Just go right to the source. I am fortunate now in Gainesville. I live right by University of Florida. And so I work with them a lot and with a lot of professors, and they have just been amazing. They've welcomed me with open arms. You know, they're like, please come to our university, come like learn about what we're doing. And so if I've got a little extra time, which I don't have much of these days,
Right.
I just try to do that as much as I can. But really, it's like oftentimes it just comes from my followers. Like I'll post something debunking a chicken label myth, and then the chicken company will reach out to me and be like, "Hey, do you want to come tour our factory? Like, can we show you our technology? Like, please come in and see our farms and like talk about it." And so that's really, I get it straight from the source, from veterinarians, from scientists, universities, experts, farmers. And then I'm a keynote speaker. And so whenever I go to speak at a conference, I don't want to be one of those speakers that just flies in and speaks and leaves. I try to just learn as much as I can. So I network, I go to breakout sessions, I hear other keynotes, I talk to people like you, like just anybody that is a lot smarter than I am, and just try to take what they know, and I take a lot of notes and I write a lot of articles, and that's just how it all starts, is just going to the source.
That's fantastic. So could you give us a summary of the top 3 things that you've worked very hard to debunk that you're most passionate about?
Ooh, I would say like the factory farming myths. I've toured some of the largest feedlots in the country. Like, for example, I went to one out in Idaho, had 155,000 head of cattle. And I was pretty nervous going in, but oh my gosh, it was so impressive. And these are some of the biggest things that I find is some of the biggest farms. I toured a farm in Iowa that had 1.1 million pigs. And the more I go inside and I learn and I'm talking to the thing is that when you have a farm that big and you have the economies of scale where you can hire people full time to monitor your livestock and the temperature and all the settings and the controls and the data points, and that veterinarian can see in the computer screen 148 different data points tagged to the cow's ear. I mean, the technology is incredible where we can take better care of animals than ever before. But it's really only the large scale farms that can afford to do that, that can have the PhD in veterinary science working full time on their farm, right? Because they can afford that. And so it's like kind of this whole mentality of big is bad. I would argue the opposite. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I love small farms too, right? I mean, they're amazing. I come from a small, mid-sized farm myself. But that's probably my favorite thing to talk about, is just how factory farms are very cool. I wouldn't call them factory farms. They're family farms usually, and they're pretty well run. That's probably like number one. I think number two, you were talking about top 3 myths I like to bust,
Top
right?
3 myths you like to bust.
Yeah, like GMOs for sure, like pesticide use.
I knew that was going to be somewhere in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I'm down here in Florida now, and when I was on the farm in Iowa, it's just corn and soybean country. So like our cornfields, we sprayed herbicide 1 or 2 days a year. That's it. Down here in Florida, it's hot, it's humid, the pest pressure is much higher, nothing dies in the winter, so they have so much more pests to take care of here. It's a lot of creepy crawlies down here in Florida. I say WTF stands
and
for
some big ones,
Florida.
them gators, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And so down here in Florida, it's just like, I mean, you learn that farmers will grow organic and non-organic, and they're both sprayed just as much. Organic might actually be sprayed more. And so I think when you think about how GMO corn is sprayed with herbicide 1 day or 2 days a year, Florida organic vegetables can be sprayed weekly, right? So it's this whole mentality of like GMOs are just drenched in toxic chemicals. And it's like, no, GMOs are probably the least sprayed crops out there. Like grains in a cold weather climate, they're not going to have the pest pressure that a delicious berry in Florida would. Like we think they're delicious, bugs think they're delicious too. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things that's another misconception. And number 3, I would say, is just kind of like water quality. I think is also a hot topic with soil and water health, where people think, oh, big ag is destroying the soil. Our soils are dead, and everything's bad, and it's doom and gloom, and the dead zone, and everything's dying. And it's like, have you ever even looked at the data to support your position? You know what I mean? It's like once you actually dig in on it and your boots on the ground, looking at the waterway with the experts, and you're looking at the data with your own 2 eyes, and you understand it from the perspective of the research, wow, like we have come a long way, and we're only continuing to get better. So I think just that true sustainability story of agriculture, when you compare it to what it was like decades ago versus where we are now and where we're going, it's a pretty amazing story to tell.
most of what consumers see and think about agriculture, I think, is that they're causing a lot of issues. Michelle, what
Mhm.
would you say are some of these problems that agriculture is solving, or what solutions is agriculture providing to the world?
Well, so I'll give you an example down here in Florida with fertilizer. Okay. People were saying that the fertilizer and the too much use of phosphorus and blah, blah, blah. So back in 1994, for example, they came up with the Everglades Protection Act. I think, is it Everglades? I think, yeah, the EPA, or no, that's not what it's called. Oh, shoot, I'm drawing a blank. Everglades, the Everglades Act.
I can Google it here.
Yeah. Sorry, just drawing a brain
I'll
fart. I've
find that
got it
for
in
you.
my notebook. I've got it in my notebook, like right there. But they passed this act that told farmers, hey, you've got to reduce your phosphorus by at least, oh my gosh, now I need to go read my facts. I think it was like 25% a year, and they've surpassed that.
Everglades Forever Act?
Yes, the Everglades Forever
EFA.
Act.
That's a little
Okay.
bit different.
I
No
was
one can
thinking it was
remember.
Everglades Protection, Everglades Forever, and I think it passed in 1994, right?
Yeah,
Can you,
1994, and it was amended twice in 2003.
yeah,
It
you
was
can edit
phosphorus
this out.
reduction.
You,
Yeah,
you can edit this
absolutely.
out, right?
You
Okay,
bet.
because I'm
We'll
like,
make
oh,
it
I'm
sound
trying to
very smooth.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Um,
Everglades Forever Act in 1994. So, okay, so I'll just cut.
yeah.
Poop, here we go. Start here.
Awesome.
So the Everglades Forever Act started in 1994, where they told farmers you've got to reduce your phosphorus by at least 25% each year. Now, if you look at the average ever since then, you found that they've completely surpassed this. And there is thousands of samples that are being taken. We've got University of Florida is on it, the Friends of Lake Okeechobee. There's U.S. Sugars on it. There's let's see, the Florida Water Protection Agency.
Oh,
And
you have a
cut.
great memory.
Yeah, for the most, okay, so like I literally just wrote this article last week, so some of it's like, so it's like fresh in my mind, but I also don't
We'll put the
remember all of
link
it.
to the article in the
Yeah,
podcast.
we'll just
It's
put the
all
link
there,
to the
folks.
article. Okay, so cut. So we've got all of these amazing agencies and experts like the university and the data points and all of this happening that is proving that they're making huge strides with the water and soil conservation efforts. So it's just amazing because there's just so much happening. There's slow release fertilizer. They're doing the best management practices now, which is what's called like the 4 R's, which is like the right product, right time, right place, stuff like that. And so there's different things going on that are really helping farmers be the best stewards that they've been. And, there's just so much happening with technology and data and improved science behind it that it just goes to show that we're making great strides.
Do you feel like you've had an impact? Do you have some real world examples of where you've moved the needle with companies that have shaped policy and products for the better?
Oh yeah, for sure. Burger King was probably a big one. So was it about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now? Burger King put out this ad called Cow's Menu, and it was painting livestock farmers in a negative light. That like cow farts were destroying the planet and all this stuff. And it's like, first of all, 97% of methane comes from their mouth, not the rear. So they got that wrong right off the bat when they're like focusing so much on cow farts. But Burger King did this horrible commercial where these kids were just surrounded by fire flames and wearing gas masks, and it's like livestock are just polluting everything. And it was, oh my God, it was bad. And they said that because they're a burger restaurant and they're part of the problem, they're going to be part of the solution by feeding lemongrass to cattle, because feeding lemongrass could reduce methane emissions by up to a third in cattle. But the interesting thing about this is that they had one study in Mexico that said that, but they were working with other studies in other parts of the world where those results were inconclusive, not yet published. They weren't coming up with the same outcome. And so it was interesting because they put out this ad, and boy, did they get backlash, including the researchers from UC Davis that were saying, hey, we're part of this research. We're actually not finding that lemongrass is reducing methane emissions yet. Like, we're still working on it. So if you could maybe not publish that, it would be great.
Yeah.
So Burger King got called out by academia. They got called out by people like me and farmers. And then I was putting them on blast on social media. Hashtag boycott Burger King was trending. I mean, they were just getting it handed to them.
You're a nightmare.
Not in a good way. And so I ended up sending a tweet to Burger King's global chief marketing officer, just explaining why we found the ad so offensive. And Burger King actually reached out to me. So I had a Zoom call with him. His name's Fernando. And I was just like, look, like sustainability, reducing methane, all these things is a great cause. It's a great idea. But farmers have already been doing that. I said, come on out to the farm and I will show you. And they did. So they came out. They brought a camera crew with them. They did a new commercial, and I put together a couple of days worth of experts. I had Iowa Farm Bureau involved, Iowa State, some ruminant nutritionists. I took them to feedlots, I took them to dairy farm. I had the CEO of a methane digester company out there. And we started off on my farm, and I talked about sustainability, with like no-till cover crops, all that. Like, here's our cattle right here, right next to the feed. It's all right here. And showed them all sorts of stuff, really. But then Burger King took down the old ad, and they put out a new ad that highlighted and partnered with farmers. And so that was something that I was like, yes, like we had an impact, and it was the power of a tweet. This is why I always preach people in agriculture, get on social media, because your voice is way more powerful than you know. If you can move the needle on a corporation as large as Burger King with the power of a single tweet, think of what we can do together collaboratively. We can move mountains,
It's fascinating they would pick that one study and focus in on that. You got to give them credit because they're trying, but they're going in the wrong direction. How do people get misled with science? Like, how do you know what's good science or bad science?
Yeah, that's actually one of the questions I had asked him on our call. Was I was like, "Are you vegan?" Like, because
exactly.
they're doing the what is it, the Impossible Whopper, and they're doing all these like vegan options or whatever, which aren't
Can you
even
be a
selling
vegan
that
and
well.
work at Burger King? I mean,
Yeah. Well, and it's it's just like it's the trend, right? Like it's what the celebrities are talking about. It's what food companies are talking about. It's the marketing. It's the buzz. It's the buzzwords. It's sustainability. It's just like what's trending right now in food. And so I think that's kind of where they were going with it. It was just the woke crowd, like, kind of what's trending. But, that was the other funny thing too, is it's like, okay, let's just say, for argument's sake, that if you feed lemongrass to cattle, it can reduce methane. Fine. Where are we going to source lemongrass? Because the last I heard, the lemongrass yields of Saskatchewan were not mind-blowing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, are we going to truck lemongrass? Are we going to ship it from Southeast Asia where it grows and ship it all the way to Canada? Like, how do you plan on doing this?
And is that environmental?
Yes, exactly. And how cost effective is it? And are you going to pay the farmers for feeding lemongrass? So it's like you can do all the carbon credits in the world and say, hey, farmer, congratulations, you reduced methane by up to a third. Oh yeah, thanks. By the way, that lemongrass I had to feed to my cattle cost me an extra $200 per head. You going to pay for that? Nope. You know what I mean? So it's all the economies of scale. It's the marketing nonsense. It's the BS. It's the misinformation. And it all boils down to companies trying to appease the woke crowd. But I like hashtag get woke, go broke.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's dangerous footing for anybody publicly today, because you never know what kind of landmine you might step on. What would you like to see by the end of this, Michelle? What would you feel good about having achieved?
Oh, I would like more companies to actually highlight farmers. You know what I mean? The other thing that companies are so busy misleading and labeling and bullshitting people to death that they forget about that farmers are real people. And it doesn't matter if you have a burger at McDonald's or A&W or your local burger spot in your neighborhood. They're all produced by farmers, and they're all great people. And you can do a great job if you're small, medium, or large. And so it would be great if a company, I think of somebody like, even in Canada there, you've got Adrienne Ivy. Okay, let's talk about your fellow Canadian. Sure. She does a great job. And she produces beef for McDonald's. And if you go to some of the McDonald's websites, like in Canada or the US, they actually do a pretty good job with transparency. You can scan a QR code and it'll take you back to the farms where it comes from. How cool is that? If I could influence more corporations to actually highlight and promote the amazing people behind our food, whether it's small or large scale, that would be incredible. If we could get farmers on stage next to those celebrities that are spreading the misinformation, if you could get a farmer on some of the major talk shows or major Because right now, here we've got like Good Morning America, or you've got, I don't know, the Today Show. And they're like, okay, we're going to talk about food. And they get some foodie nutritionist from New York City. And she's like, we all have to go vegan and gluten free. and it's like, have you ever been to a farm before? Like, why are the food experts not actually knowing anything about where their food comes from? Like, yes, you can talk about recipes, but that doesn't bring it back to how it's actually grown. So we're missing this huge opportunity of helping people feel connected and comfortable to their food, and it make farmers more of the celebrities, right? It's like, I was at my friend's farm and I learned that they grow wheat that goes into goldfish crackers. And I was like, that's you? Like, you guys make goldfish? I love goldfish. That's you? And we can,
Thank you
we
so
can
much
give
for
the
goldfish
same,
crackers.
I love goldfish, but you can give farmers that same type of celebrity credibility, where you're like, I eat goldfish crackers because my friend grows the wheat that goes into it. How cool is that? Really? That's your friend? It's the same when I was at Kentucky and I was deciding what bourbon to get. And it's like, I'm going to pick Four Roses because my friend's dad grows the corn that goes into it. How cool is that? And so I'd like to see a lot more of that.
And there are companies doing it.
There is, but we need more of it. We need to highlight and support the ones that are supporting us.
Michelle, what surprised you the most about becoming famous?
I'm not famous. I think this is what surprises me the most, is that
You're not
people think I'm
anonymous.
famous.
Let's be real.
I think that's what surprised me the most, is when people treat me like I'm famous or some type of celebrity. Like, I don't know, I'm just a person with a following. I don't know. I think that's what surprised me the most, though, was just realizing, like, I never in a million years thought that I would be able to do this full time. Like, for me, it was just like a hobby and something that I was interested in, that I thought was important, and to have it grow into a full-time career, I think is the biggest surprise. Like, how'd you end up doing this? I'm like, it's accident. I don't know. I love what I do. And I think that's the other thing, is when you really love what you do and your passion shines through and it shows, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And that's it, right? Just do what you love.
Fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah.
How do you coach people in the agricultural industry to reach out to their customers?
Well, you just kind of got to do it. Okay. And I would encourage people, I think, if I had to do like some coaching per se, it would just be to don't be shy and realize that practice makes perfect. And when you first start off, you might fall on your face a couple times when you're communicating to people, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And the more communication you have, I recommend people network with groups, collaborate with other people, share work from people that inspires you. Like, how I got started was just, through people like Rob Syke and Kevin Folta, that inspired me a lot. And from there, you just build this network, and you learn and you grow and you realize that, man, you can really make a difference. It's pretty cool. Just go for it. And you just got to practice and try and have fun with it. Be true to yourself. That's another point that I would share, is be true to yourself. If you don't like TikTok, don't force yourself to make TikToks. If you don't like Twitter, don't force yourself to tweet. Find what works for you. Maybe you love YouTube. Maybe you love Facebook. Maybe you find that niche, and find what you enjoy and stick with it and build on it.
Oh, that's great coaching. What is the next big thing for the Farm Babe?
Oh gosh. Well, all sorts of good stuff I got in the works. I don't know where to begin, because it's, I don't know. I'm doing a lot of stuff next month with beef and dairy. I'm going to be touring some of Florida's largest dairy farms. I'll be out in California on some of these pretty large scale farms, and learning all about the California Beef Council is doing this tour for some of us, where you learn about, cow-calf operations, all the way to feedlots to calving, just every step of beef in California. So I'm excited about that, to work with California Beef Council and Florida Milk, and really just be submerged with those experts and stuff like that.
Busy. You're busy.
Yeah. I travel a lot.
Very cool. So on a final note here, what is it that you'd most like to say to maybe the non-farming folks in the audience, or in general?
I would say just talk to us. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. And, if you have a question about something specific, it's not always the best idea to Google it. It's kind of like Googling your medical symptoms. It's like you can have a
Right.
stomach ache and
At
Google
11
it and
o'clock at
think you're
night.
gonna die. Yeah, right. So don't get
Yeah,
in your head
I've
too
done
much, but always go to the source, and go to the source that's like a real, you can ask, I say ask the farmer, but don't gardening and farming are two very different things too, right? Like gardeners are fantastic, farmers are fantastic, but they don't always understand each other either. It's kind of comparing apples to oranges. So, if you have a question about how commercial wheat is grown, ask a commercial wheat farmer. And through the power of social media, you can find any type of farmer by searching hashtags, keywords, phrases, asking people in groups. You can find the information you're looking for. Just don't be, I guess, like intellectually lazy, if you will, where people are just like, oh, I don't know, like I read it on the internet, so it's true. Just be skeptical and dig in a little bit deeper and realize that the media is out to sell a doom and gloom story. It's what the media does. It's probably, when you read something negative, it's probably not as negative as it really is in reality. It's just the media likes to blow things up.
Don't they? They've had a heyday
They
in the
do.
last couple of years.
Yes,
Fun,
exactly.
right?
With all different aspects of life.
It's like clickbait heaven out there.
Oh my
these
God,
days.
for real, for real.
How would people best connect with you?
So my website is thefarmbabe.com. There's a contact tab, but I am Farm Babe on Facebook, and my handle is @thefarmbabe on everything. Whether you like to tweet, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you can find me everywhere at thefarmbabe, thefarmbabe.com.
Thank you, Michelle, for advocating for agriculture. It's our living, it's our heritage, it's essential. I'm going to leave here and have a big ass ribeye in your honor.
Yeah.
Blue rare.
There you go.
No, I think it's fantastic what you're doing. And I hope that we get a chance to meet in person at some trade show or event. I'd love to hear you speak.
Absolutely. That would be great. I miss Canada. I was going to Canada so much before COVID. I did like 6 talks in one winter right before COVID. And I was like, I love Canada. I've been to many tours up there, many farms, and I love the people. And I'm eager to get back. So hopefully this border stuff gets a little bit easier and I can be up there sooner than later.
We're still here, just like a big giant toque on top of America's head, just waiting for somebody to come visit for us from America.
Oh my God. I actually have a Canadian toque. It's like this big, obnoxious, it's got Canadian flags all over it. I bought it actually in 2015 after my very first keynote speech I ever gave, or it was a breakout session at the Farm Forum event.
Oh, really?
I think it was
with Rob?
Yeah.
In Calgary.
I bought it. Yeah, I bought it. It was in Saskatoon that year, but I bought it at the Saskatoon airport because I had learned what a toque was that day from comedian. it was the comedian Brent. What's his name? Brent Butt, I think.
Brent Butt, yeah, from Corner Gas.
Brent Butt, yeah, Corner Gas. So he was the comedian, the entertainment, and he was poking fun of Americans. He was telling jokes and ripping on Americans, and he's like, they don't even know what a toque is. And I was like, what's a toque? And he goes, see? And I had never heard that expression.
It's a
French
word for head covering, I guess.
So, yeah. So actually, have you seen, I'm getting off on a tangent, but I like to throw in a little bit of humor. Have you seen the blue toque? It's like a toque with Bluetooth speakers built into it. So you can listen to music in your Bluetooth.
Great innovation. Yeah.
It was great. Like, of course you have to call it a blue toque. And then somebody's like, you get a phone call. It's like, new toboggan, who dis?
You just need beer holders on that. Like Bob and Doug McKenzie from the Great White North, and you become complete. I like that.
Absolutely.
You should make the Farm Babe. You should make Farm Babe Bluetooth toque. That would be selling like hotcakes in Canada.
A blue toque. I'll look into that. A blue toque. That would be fun. I'll check it out. Check it out. Cool. Hopefully I'll get up there soon. I miss Canada. Y'all are pretty nice up there. Canada's
it's pretty
like
easy
the
to
attic.
come up there now. I mean, we're just come on in. It's okay. We're all good.
Okay. Yeah. Canada's like the attic. Every so often you go up there and you find some cool stuff. and then Mexico's like the basement. You just go down there to party.
Never thought of it that way, but that's a good analogy.
You're welcome.
What does that make America? The main floor of the big picture window.
Perfect.
Well, we love you guys and appreciate the work that you're doing. And I'm sure our audience is going to appreciate hearing your point of view. So thanks so much for coming on, Michelle. And I'm sure we'll see you around the circuit soon.
Yes, you are welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Michelle.
All right, thanks.